Good afternoon, and welcome back to the Snake Pit. Just a reminder to join my free Telegram group at the Snake Pit for more. Nothing I tell you in this video, as you know, nothing's financial advice, and all price predictions and other projections are for entertainment and educational purposes only. So what is going on with Bitcoin today? What's been going on with it for a while, right? Look at this leg of Bitcoin that we've been in since September of 23, just a little reprieve here in January and then blasting off again right up to the 0.886 fib, which is at 58K. So, we haven't even hit the halving yet, and look at how close we are to breaking Bitcoin's all-time high of 69K. What is going on? Are we in mania season? Could it be possible that we're already there? Well, that's the question I'm going to answer today, and I'm going to take you through some different indicators and other things to let you make up your mind for yourself, and also give you my own thoughts on that subject. So, checking back in with our lovely logarithmic regression trendline friend, which here's our mean line, plus or minus 3 standard deviations in increments of 0.5. We are right up against the plus 0.5. This is on the 2-week, which is going to be the main focus today. So you have to wonder if we're going to hit some major resistance here, or if we're just going to blast through it. I am a big believer in diminishing returns, and seeing that we got up to the 1.5 log regression trend line last time, I have a hard time seeing us getting that high again. Of course, anything is possible. But if you feel like we're kind of in a mania season right now, you're not alone. Mania seasons can sneak up on you, especially with diminishing returns, because it's not going to feel the same way that it has in the past. We're sloshing around over $50,000. Well, we really have to think about the market cap of Bitcoin, but ignoring the market cap for a second, just comparing to past times, we're sloshing around a lot more money now than we were in the past. So you're going to have diminishing volatility, and mania might not feel the same like it used to. So, we have retraced a pretty large amount of this last move, and we are just right here. So once we break above the 1.5, the next stop is up here at the 1, and the 1 right now is around 96K. So we should keep an eye on this logarithmic regression chart. We are now slightly overvalued. So we're entering into overvalued territory if you're considering things on this log regression trend line. I want to look on some other ones as well, just to kind of keep track of where we are. So this is an interesting development. I remember us looking at this universal logarithmic regression trend line, which uses logarithmic fibs, and seeing that we were facing some resistance at the 618 fib. We've broken above it now. The 7639 fib looms above at 77.5. So it's hard to say exactly where things are going to end or how this Bitcoin is going to behave. The 8541 for reference is at 99,000. The top line is at 155K. So we're going to have to follow this as it develops. I did do a video on a left translated cycle. Be sure to check that out if you haven't already. But truthfully, with the Bitcoin ETF inflows, the possibility of Fed rate cuts at some point this year, and the general unpredictability of the economy, I wouldn't take my predictions to the bank. It's fun to make them, but we don't trade them here. So we got that inverse head and shoulders pattern developed on the chart, and we're really seeing this almost looks like a reverse of what happened here. So this bull trend is really accelerating. Should also mention we are riding the top Bollinger Band right now on the logarithmic Bollinger Bands. The last time we did that was in the 2021 Mania run-up by Bitcoin. We did it in 2019 briefly. We did it in 2017 and 2016 during that Mania, but we really didn't start to ride it in a big way until closer to 2017. You can see that we usually do this during Mania. So we appear to be riding this again, which is one of the reasons why, I'm going to give you several reasons why. One of the reasons why I think we're in mania right now, and I think we've actually been in mania possibly as early as October of last year after we had the August and September correction, but arguably more so since January of this year. We are riding the upper logarithmic, and this is on the 2-week, so this is hard to do, upper logarithmic regression Bollinger Band trend line. Now, one thing I'll say that we don't have yet is a full stacking of moving averages. We are stacked above the 10 week, quite well above the 10 week, the 20 week. However, we have the 100 week sandwiched in the middle of the 20 week and the 50 week in light blue, and the 40 week just crossed above the 50 week. You can ignore the 200 week. We're not going there anytime soon. But we are still waiting for these to sort themselves out. Typically during Mania seasons, you see all the moving averages nicely sort themselves out. But in the beginning of Mania season or just before it, you can see them kind of scrunched up and getting sorted. And we haven't really seen that like straight up parabolic move that we usually see in the middle of Mania. I don't think we're in the middle of Mania, but I do believe that the way that this looks, at least this incredible upslope, does suggest that we may be in the beginning of Mania season. You can see that, moving averages usually do stack up nicely, and but who knows? Does it have to happen this time? Do we have to have everything stack up beautifully in the beginning, especially when we're sloshing around all this money and we have this brutal bear market? I probably wouldn't rely on this alone to say whether we're in Mania or not. What I would rather look at is the Gaussian channel. Let's see what's going on with that. Would you believe it's still red? As I mentioned in a previous video, the only time the 2-week Gaussian has ever been red was during 2015-2016. And we escaped the red in June of 2016, which was about a year and a half before Mania peak. This time, it is still red, and we are way above it. We have just spiked straight through it. So, the 2-week Gaussian changes very slowly, and the reason it's red is because of this bear market. This was a pretty brutal bear market. And the Gaussian channel is a lagging indicator. So what you're seeing is kind of momentum. That's kind of how I think about it, like the momentum that Bitcoin had to face to get to where it is today. And this is a very, very bullish sign to slice through it like this. I mean, when this happened in 2016, that was it. We were in Mania season. So I think we're in Mania season right now. I do. Look how close we are to taking out the April peak. And before you know it, we'll probably be up at the November peak. I never imagined that there was a possibility we could test the all-time high before the halving. And the halving date itself has been front run. The original halving date was in June, and then it moved back to April, like mid-April, and now it's moving, I think, to more early/mid-April. So, and who knows, Bitcoin blocks are being processed so quickly now compared to how they were in the past that anything's possible. So we need to keep a close watch on this. This is a very big bounce. And you know what? Like, I don't really think it's ridiculous to think that, and again, I talk about the Bitcoin cycle lie, but let me just draw something for you. Now, don't take this too seriously because this does contradict one of my earlier price prediction theories, but I'm not here to be a psychic, okay? I know I'm going to get things wrong, and this is honestly just fun. So what if we drew this trend line and said, instead of Bitcoin being in a cycle, it's just been waffling around in a giant flag? Now, this is an ascending triangle, which tends to be bearish, not bullish. So usually with this kind of trend line, the more you knock on the door, eventually you're going to fall through. And let's assume that this flag started in October of 2015. And now we could draw a top here if we wanted to, but we have these two tops, and I need as many touch points as possible to make a proper trend line. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 major touch points. This is on a 2-week time frame on the bottom of the trend. What if we rocket off to a new all-time high in April? What if we did that? And then let's say the Fed came in and cut rates, and we dropped all through the summer to August of 2024. So instead of putting in a top in August of 2024, we actually put in some kind of macro bottom. And the funny thing is, if we touch the top of this trend line, that puts us at 102, 103K. This is contradicting my earlier theory, but look, I'm not one-track minded. I got to throw all kinds of things out there and see what happens. And then we come down, let's say in the summer, after Fed rate cuts or whatever, people think it's all over, but we still have enough bullish momentum to take another leg up. December 2024, right after the presidential election. And so let's say like a Fed does like a rate hike, but then they pause again. A rate hike, a rate cut. and then they pause again, and then let's say election happens and we have something like what happened in 1968 with Richard Nixon, where he was elected and the economy just went to complete crap afterwards. And these kind of trend lines usually break to the downside, and so we could see that nasty bear market where Bitcoin comes back and revisits the sub 40K zone and puts in a bottom around there. So around like 25 to 32K, which we haven't visited that region. Usually you got to visit that region to that's our breakout region to confirm bullish structure. So we're going to have to revisit it at some point. My thought is most likely the next bear market. And maybe that bear market would end sometime in 2026. So I don't know. I mean, this is another possible path. This would suggest that an all-time high could come as soon as the halving or around the halving. We're front running the halving and then dump right after the halving. It's possible, folks. Don't discount it. It could happen, and it's important to plan for all possible scenarios. This market will wreck as many people as possible. You can get your mind off of the idea of cycles, like 4-year cycles. The 4-year cycle is a lie. I don't think we're going to have 4-year cycles forever. I think we had like 2 of them, and that might be all we get. I don't think this one is going to be a 4-year cycle in this traditional sense. But if you just look at maybe we're just flagging on a macro scale. The Bitcoin cycle lie, right? These are fractals. You can look at them however you want. Now, this is just one possible path. The reason why I'm drawing this is because we are going up very rapidly right now. This is like mania kind of upness. And so it makes me wonder, like, how much more gas is left in the tank. And originally I said, we'll go till August of 2024. But this move, which was made after the production of my August 2024 left translated cycle peak, it came after that video. And so it's got me thinking, could we peak possibly around the halving? Could we? Is that possible? Sure. It sure is possible. Will it happen? I don't know. We need to look at some more data. But I just wanted to draw this out for you as food for thought. I noticed this yesterday, but look at where we are in a bull bear power trend. We're at about 7.59, okay? And this is not a level that we have hit often in Bitcoin's history. We didn't hit it at all last cycle. Not at all. Not once. The last time we hit this level on the way up was in September of 2016. And if you remember, September of 2016 was just before liftoff of Bitcoin. In fact, the peak of this run was when Mania started. So in September of 2016, we were just 3 months away from Mania season. What about before that? Well, the last time it happened before that was in December of 2012, which was just a few months before, or just 1 month before our peak here. Actually, no, let me see. This is like, it's kind of hard to tell on here, but like around November, December of 2012. So this was also just shortly before Mania season. Mania season actually kicked off in around December, January of 2013. And before that, we had reached this level in July of 2012, which did not correspond to any kind of like Mania season. But yeah, two previous data points does not a trend make. We know that mathematically. Now you might wonder to yourself, well, why does this drop off during Mania season? Like it drops off and you have your major cycle peaks looking rather unimpressive on the bull bear power trend. So if we go to our second peak out at November of 2013, the bull bear power trend by then didn't really look that impressive. And then we have our April 13 peak right here. You can see on the black line, the moving average. You definitely have peaks on the moving average to represent the cycle peaks. This is certainly a significant moment. In 2016, we climbed down the mountain and we put in our last major blow off top move when the green mountain was pretty much ready to come down. Okay. In 2020, we hit peak green mountain momentum November, right? That was the start of Mania season. And then we started, coming down and we had our summer lull. And then we had another peak later on in November. This is like October where it actually peaked, but we know that the price peaked in November. And then we started coming down the mountain again. And, look at where we are now. There's something else I want to point out to you. And this is a little harder to see, especially I'm going to try to zoom in on it so you can see it better. But I want you to try to look at these green histogram bars that you see inside of here. Okay? These are usually at their maximum strength, meaning the bulls are in charge during mania season. There's no exceptions to this, none at all. Okay? Where you're at peak histogram strength, it's always during mania, every single time. Guess what? We got peak bull strength, or just about peak bull strength, just about a month ago. Just about a month ago. Now, it looks like this mountain might be cresting a little bit here. We have to keep an eye on that. Okay. Now, if that crest could mark the start of, this could mark the start of mania season. Literally could mark it. We may not go above this white line. There's no guarantee that we do. We don't have to. We didn't in 2020. There's no reason we have to in 2024. But this is something we need to keep an eye on. And what about these red blobs? These red blobs mark selling. Because what happens during mania season? The market is actually most stable during equilibrium. It's not the most stable during mania, because mania is when people sell. It's also where retail comes in and FOMOs. But you can see it's a battle between the bulls and the bears, and eventually the bears win because there's just nothing left to take. People absolutely exhaust their greed. And then in a bear market, just the opposite happens. People exhaust their fear. You can see peak fear here was around October of 2022, December of 2022, somewhere in that region. You had peak fear, and then fear kind of left the market and greed took over. You don't get very many of these moments where fear is at a maximum. You also don't get too many of these moments, although you do get more of them, where greed is at a maximum. So people literally take everything they can before the system collapses. That's what happens. And we are seeing the beginnings of that now. So if we are in the beginning of mania season, when could we expect to see this end? Well, historically speaking, when you enter into mania season, you're about a year from your mania ending. Mania usually lasts about a year. And if we assume that mania began, according to the green histogram bars, in January of this year, then we would anticipate that the cycle is said and done, if you want to call it that, no later than January of 2025, which is consistent with my estimation of when we are likely to enter into a major recession or moderate recession, depending on what you think. But I think it is reasonable to think that we've got at most 1 year left in this bull cycle. And I think we are in the early stages of mania. That's where I'm putting us based on the data. I'll show you some other things that make me think this as well. Now, this one is a little more dubious. This is the beam, which is a risk metric that I use. It's customizable. And you can see that you have green, anything underneath green, I usually consider to be good DCA time, or underneath the green, extremely undervalued. Between green and roughly the gray or the yellows, typically fair value holding. From gray on upward, especially above orange, usually that's getting into profit taking areas. I have mine set at the orange. I'm probably going to have to adjust this, but and then anything above red is just extreme. And you can see that we had an extreme peak here in November of 2013. We also had one in April of 2013 for that double top. You come down during the bear market and you get pretty, much down deep into high value territory. December of 2017, we also had a peak. Notice that this peak was lower than the previous peak due to diminishing returns. And so we set the bar a little bit lower here. And then in this last mania double peak cycle, we didn't even hit that. We hit this first gray bar in November, and we just barely went above the orange bar. So you have to think that with diminishing returns, we're probably not even getting this high. Maybe we should be looking at the gray bar this time. And look where we are right now. We have broken through the green. And that might not seem very significant, but if you look back at our last iteration of a bull cycle, we broke through the green in October of 2020, and we're doing it again now. October of 2020, beginning of mania. So here we are in February of 2024. And now you could say, well, we also broke through it in July of 2020, and you wouldn't be wrong, we did. But it's more significant to break through it now than it was back here because of diminishing returns. So while this isn't as compelling of an argument that we're in mania season, it is something I'm taking note of. Our KZX RSI is in overbought. When was the last time this happened? This happened in October of 2020, right? You guessed it, in Bitcoin's Mania season. Now, interestingly, we actually turned overbought in October of 2020. Remember, I said Mania season could have actually begun in October for all we know. I'm not saying it did or it didn't. And then if our bull run was to end in August to October of this year instead of maybe December or January, then we'd have to kind of come back to here to look for history. If you look in, in 2019, that was right off of a bear market. That's different than what's happening now. In 2016, you can see we hit these overbought regions quite a bit. So this is not, again, like something to take to the bank. It isn't, but it's been a really long time since we've been considered to be in overbought territory. Now, this is an indicator to really pay attention to. This is the ADX and DI, and there's a much more compelling argument that we're in Mania season here than anywhere else. Short of the bull bear power trend. So you can see what started to happen back in October of 2020 when we went into full Mania. The ADX really started to trend up in a big way, and it peaked out around April of 2021. That would have been the time of maximum bullish momentum. Okay, actually the bullishness was fading back then. The maximum bullish momentum was actually in December of 2020. See, what happens is sellers start to enter into the market in a bigger and bigger way, and they start to fade the bullish momentum. And you'll often see this with an inflection on the Gaussian channel. The Gaussian channel will go from being, and I have to remember my camera's probably backwards here, concave up to concave down, indicating that selling pressure is entering the market in a much bigger way. We haven't seen that yet, but look, we are slowly putting in, it looks like we've just put in a double top, and I'm guessing this will be a higher high before too long on the green directional index. Okay, and that is typically a sign that we have maximum bullish momentum. Could we go higher than where we are? Sure, we could. We hit a similar level in June of 2019. Looks like it was just a little bit higher. Again, that was a bounce out of the bear market. And then in 2017, this indicator was kind of all over the place. But look at how high the trend strength is now. Let's run a horizontal line and see previous times when we had an ADX trend strength. Again, this measures trend strength. Being up here around whatever we're at right now, around 68 or so, that's pretty strong. That's very strong. Getting up into the 80s is like as strong as you get, and that's not something that we hit very often at all. But I want to see, when were the last times we hit an ADX trend strength like this? Okay, so I drew a horizontal line. Come over here, January of 2021. Remember what Bitcoin was doing then? Bitcoin was, look at that parabolic leg. You can actually have a tool that can measure parabolicness. Let me throw that on the chart. This is the parabolic SAR, and you can see just how parabolic we were actually going. We were more parabolic in January than we were actually afterwards. And you can see that with the green DI hitting this level. And, maybe we can also look at like where the green DI has hit this level after we look at the ADX trend strength. So it happened in January 2021 at our peak of bullish momentum. And we just go all the way back. We have to actually go back, to July of 2013 to find a trend strength this strong. And that trend strength at that time, what was going on in July? This was during I think this was just following the first peak of the 2013 cycle. So we were kind of heading in a bearish direction at that time. We had some bearish convergence. But let's talk about it going up, not going down. Going up would have been March 2013. Look at that. Look at these blue dots, parabolic. We hit that in September of 2012, parabolic. Okay, you even got to go back here to September of 2010. Who talks about 2010 anymore? Parabolic. Okay, and so we have hit that again. We have hit that level again. This is significant. And look at this. Look at this. Parabolic. So, and are we just about to start yet another parabolic kind of leg? I don't know. Maybe. Let's take a look at the green DI and see I'm going to use a different color to see when the green DI has been this high before. So the last time the green DI was this high was in December of 2023, not that long ago. We had a high green DI, but we had a lower ADX, which meant bulls were in control, but not as strongly as they are now. So we hit it over here. I don't know that I'll go through every instance of this, but we hit it in February of 2021. We know that was a good time for Bitcoin. We also hit it in December of 2020, parabolic. We hit it in November of 2020, parabolic. June of 2019. You get the idea, okay? So there are some pretty strong signals that we are in mania, and we're a lot further along than we might realize into mania. And a major cycle peak could even happen before the summer. It could even happen around the halving, for all we know. I said that earlier. We need to prepare for that potential situation. It's not guaranteed to happen, but it is getting me anxious enough to where I want to do a video on risk metrics and exit strategies very soon, okay? Just so we can be prepared should the unexpected happen, which it often does in crypto. Okay, another metric I want to look at is the average sentiment oscillator, which actually is not putting in a higher high. It's putting in a lower high right now, which is kind of interesting. What I'd like to look at is when the last time was that we put in a higher high. And notice that that higher high came in December. In December, we're actually looking at a lower high now. So let's draw a horizontal line here and see, take a look into the past and see. And I'm talking about when it first touched it. So we have December 2023, and then we come back here, December of 2020. December of 2020, just in the middle of mania season. We could have started mania 2 months ago, folks, or even before then. We could have started it in October for all we know. What about here? Okay, we know 2019 was that bounce out of the bear market. We shouldn't take that one too seriously. This one, and I'm not trying to write it off. It's just we just had a massive bear market and we just bounced hard out of it. That is different than what's going on right now. Okay, we're not just fresh out of a bear market. So this here is December of 2016. That literally was a year before the major cycle peak. And we did something similar where we kind of crabbed down, came back up. So interesting. Then we hit this here in November of 2013. I mean, literally a few weeks from our peak. We hit it in February of 2013, just 2 months from our peak. We just barely wicked above it in July of 2012. So yeah, and then of course you've got your initial capitalization of Bitcoin. There's a lot of evidence here that we are in mania season, okay? A lot of evidence. When has MACD been this high? Moving average convergence divergence. We see that, here's where we are, February of 2024, November of 2021, December, January 2021, 2021. And then, these are some, now, you of course have, the logarithmic aspect of this to deal with. But you can see some peaks happening out here, 2019 and so on. But just looking back in recent history, we are matching up. This is not a compelling case for it. We got those dark green bars heading up again. And look at this. The moving average is the moving average divergence. It's huge. So we had bullish convergence, or bullish divergence in October of 2023. That could have been the start of mania. When has the Snabble RSI, which is an exponential RSI, gotten as high as it got in December of 2023? Seems like a really significant time. Last time it happened was December of 2020. The time before that, May of 2019, again on the bounce out of the bear. And the first time we hit that level in the other cycle was December 2016. We know that was, again, a year before the mania peak. And then here we were hitting it quite a bit. We hit it in July of 2012. We hit it in January of 2013, just a few months before our first peak. Hit it again in November, just a few weeks before our peak. And then we hit it a lot in the very beginning, which is kind of easy to do when your asset is new. The older your asset is, the harder it is to hit these RSI levels. So December 2023 seems very significant. So this is what's making me, fairly confident that our cycle is over by the end of this year, our bull cycle. I would be very shocked to see Bitcoin's cycle continue beyond December. And, look, I think we could hit a major cycle peak around the halving. It is possible, and then have a correction. We could have a couple corrections. We could have 3 tops for all we know this year. It's possible. But I think our first very significant top will be the one that comes next. The one that comes after that, or after that, could be higher in price. It's possible. But by then, you'll have enough people who will have sold, enough sellers in the market, that I don't think the bullish momentum will be as strong, and you're going to get a very unstable market. That's what happens in a mania season. You think mania is healthy for the market. It's not. It's great for our pocketbooks, but it destroys a market structure and throws you underneath the log regression line for a while. You have to recover from it. It's like binging. Is binging healthy? It tastes great. You love to binge, but then you have to deal with the consequences afterwards. You get a real downer, right? And you got to be down for like a long period of time before you're down long enough. You have to pick yourself back up, get back to work. Right as I'm talking, look at, we're approaching 57K. Isn't this incredible? Boy, the market sure is not boring anymore, is it? Ever since October of 2023, we have been on a massive run. Altcoins have been running. The past conventions of the 2020, 2021 run, the 2016, 2017 run, they don't apply now. Okay? What is altcoin season? It doesn't apply the same way that it did in the last cycle. You've got to be flexible in your thinking. You cannot get your head stuck on the 4-year cycle. You cannot get your head stuck on altcoin season, ETH season, Bitcoin season. The market is becoming more interconnected than ever before. There are the altcoin projects that we have now are like major corporations compared to the memes that they were just less than a decade ago. So we cannot treat them the same or view things the same way as we did in the past. To assume the past has to repeat itself exactly the way it did before is foolish. It's utterly foolish. And it's going to get you wrecked if you think like that. So we have to be flexible and adaptive in our thinking. I do welcome critical feedback. If you disagree with something I said in this video, or there's something you think that I overlooked, please tell me in the comments below, or come to my Telegram. It's free. I have like 120 plus people there. And keep in mind, my YouTube channel is new. I've only been doing this for 3 weeks. We've been growing mad fast. Okay, just mad fast. I've had a lot of DMs, lots of comments. So thank you for supporting the content from the Gaussian Snake, and for being such a valuable part of the crypto simulation. Because the crypto simulation only exists because of people like you. You're part of the reason why the crypto simulation exists and gives us a chance at true financial sovereignty. Thank you for joining me today, and I hope you enjoyed your stay in the crypto simulation. I hope the content blew your mind wide open and made you think differently. Remember to like, subscribe, follow, and comment. Nothing here is financial advice. Do your